As a child, I was particularly fascinated by garden gnomes, those little ornamental dwarves with the pointed caps. I always enjoyed how they seemed to be frozen in moments of leisurely activity, like they had paused to avoid detection, but you still got to see how they went about their day. This one's fishing, this one's driving a wheelbarrow, this one's napping on a toadstool. Now, I don't know if I'd be putting gnomes in my garden, but I can still appreciate a tasteful gnome arrangement. While garden gnomes as we'd recognise them today date back to about the 19th century in Europe, even in ancient Rome, the wealthy would decorate their gardens with small stone statues of hunchbacks or other grotesques, proving that it's always been a popular pleasure to have a little freak in your garden. And in at least one point in time, you could have been paid to be that little freak. In medieval Europe, a hermit was someone who secluded themselves from society, usually to focus on religious or intellectual pursuits. They might live in caves or little huts in seclusion. A landowner might support a hermit living on the outskirts of their estate, especially if the hermit cared for some nearby structure or provided some sort of spiritual or medicinal service. Over time, having a hermit living on your land came to be seen as a sort of delightful novelty, or a signifier of status. This became a very popular idea among the wealthy in 18th century England, although by this point the number of friars devoting themselves to isolated asceticism had drastically diminished. The idea was good fodder for follies though, which were a popular architectural addition to opulent gardens at the time. A folly is a structure whose design is amusing but not really related to the function of the building. I feel like I've been explaining the concept of the garden folly a lot in recent videos, rather bizarrely. And so, a popular folly to put on your land was the hermitage. Perhaps in a wooded area, you'd construct a grotto or a little hut, and perhaps this might serve as an occasional leisurely retreat for you. Those with an eye for detail would decorate their hermitage with things like smoking pipes, classical texts left open as if in mid-read, spectacles, and shoes. This gave visitors the impression that there was a real hermit living on your estate, by your good graces. Of course, this wasn't enough for some posh mental cases. No, they had to have an actual hermit living in their hermitage, and so they'd hire a man to be their garden hermit. Perhaps one of the strangest jobs in history. As a garden hermit, you'd get to live in a structure on a wealthy person's estate, usually with food and drink provided to you, and some garden hermits were paid quite decently. Sounds like a pretty good deal. But the catch lied in what was expected of you. Now, this varied from landowner to landowner, but they generally wanted an older gentleman who'd wear something reminiscent of a druid and maintained a dirty, unkempt appearance, which might entail you never washing. You might not be allowed to wear shoes. Where exactly you could and couldn't go on the estate would be made clear, and you often weren't allowed to leave. Inviting guests was out of the question, and you may have been required to either be entertaining to your host's visitors in some way, like recite poetry or something, or they may have wanted you to literally not speak to anyone, even the servants who brought you your food. The strict rules for garden hermits meant it wasn't always easy to find them. Wealthy landowners looking for garden hermits would put ads in the newspaper. The Honourable Charles Hamilton took out one such advertisement, seeking a garden hermit for Painshill Park. The advertisement said the hermit must continue on the hermitage 7 years, where he shall be provided with a Bible, optical glasses, a mat for his feet, a hassock for his pillow, an hourglass for timepiece, water for his beverage, and food from the house. He must wear a camlet robe, and never, under any circumstances, must he cut his hair, beard, or nails, stray beyond the limits of Mr. Hamilton's grounds, or exchange one word with the servant. The applicant would be paid £700 on completion of this 7-year task. That's over 100 grand today. However, if he broke any of the rules during that time, he would get nothing. A man that took up this offer lasted 3 weeks before being spotted in the local pub and losing his job. Another fellow from Lancashire similarly sought a garden hermit for a term of 7 years. The garden hermit would be paid £50 a year, and this payment would continue for life if he could stick to the rules for those 7 years, which included living hidden in an underground cave and not cutting his hair or nails. I know some of you live like that for free, but of what benefit an unseen hermit was to his host has been lost to time. The hermit lasted 4 years. There did exist people who were not put off by the garden hermit rules and were so eager to live as one that they actually put out their own advertisements seeking employment. One ad reads, "If your honour pleases to build a small hut as a hermitage near your honour's house, in a wood with a high wall around it, your honour might hear of a man to live in it for 7 years without seeing any human creature. I mean not to cut my hair, nor yet my beard, nor my nails in that time. I should wish to have all the necessities of life brought to me in a private place." Imagine taking out an ad in the paper asking for a rich dude to build you a house on their land where you live like a smelly troglodyte being waited on hand and foot by their servants. It's unknown if this hopeful found what he was looking for, but it's crazy to think that it's not beyond the realms of possibility. You'll notice through similarities in the advertisements that the duties of a garden hermit seemed to an extent somewhat well established, down to the common serving time of 7 years. Why 7 years? Who knows for sure. 7 years was a standard term for apprenticeship in trades at the time, so this might have had something to do with that. By the 19th century, trends in estate landscaping were starting to change, and the idea of having an unwashed man on your property somehow became less popular. Around the same time, the modern garden gnomes started to become fashionable, and it could perhaps be argued these fellas are a replacement for the now extinct garden hermit. I know, I'd certainly prefer the garden gnome, but then again, I would also enjoy having a property large enough to accommodate a hermitage. One separate to the squalor I live in, that is. So what do you think? Was being a garden hermit a humiliating, psychologically shattering, horrible job? Or does it sound like a pretty sweet deal? Let me know in the comments, and if you liked this video, watch more. Particularly these ones, if you'd like to hear of more unusual things people have built on their land. Subscribe to see more of my videos in the future. Join the channel membership to support me financially, and until next time, stay safe. In medieval Europe, a hermit was someone who secluded themselves from society, usually to focus on religion or intellectual pursuits. They may have lived in... This became a very popular idea among the In medieval Europe, a hermit was someone... Oh no, I did that one. Of course, this wasn't enough for some mental... Another fellow from Lancashire similarly sought a garden hermit for a term of 7 years. Another fellow from Lancashire similarly sought a garden. 20 seconds of room tone then, starting now. Starting now.